All right, let's jump right in. We're going to break down a fascinating perspective on what it means to be truly strong. And here's the twist. What if I told you that real strength doesn't come from being powerful, but actually from being weak? It's a counterintuitive idea for sure, and it's all drawn from a fresh look at an ancient text. So, to get our heads around this, let's start with a story. It's an ancient one, but it sets up this powerful idea about being protected from threats you don't even know are there. So, meet the prophet Elijah. He's in a really tight spot, running for his life. And in this moment of just, extreme danger, he gets a very, very strange command. And get this, the command was super specific. It wasn't just go hide. It was go to this particular brook, hide yourself, and there, and only there, I've arranged for ravens to bring you food. Now, here's where it gets interesting. On the surface, this was just a survival plan, right? There's a famine coming, so here's some food and water. But the source text we're digging into says there was a much deeper, hidden reason. By obeying this very specific instruction, Elijah unknowingly dodged Queen Jezebel's hit squad. He was saved from a sword he never even saw coming, all because he was in the right place at the right time. And that idea of a hidden, protective purpose, well, that leads us right to the heart of this whole concept. It's all summed up in one powerful and kind of confusing phrase from the book of Hebrews. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. How does that even work? Out of weakness, we're made strong. It sounds like a total paradox, right? So let's unpack what the source text argues this really, really means. Here is the absolute key. We are not talking about hitting the gym here or about having more self-confidence. The source is super clear that this is a completely different kind of power. It's a spiritual strength, and you can only tap into it when you finally admit, you know what, I can't do this on my own. And you can see these two paths play out perfectly with these two guys. You've got King Uzziah, who got strong in his own power, and what happened? His pride swelled up, and it led straight to his downfall. But then you have the Apostle Paul, who says the exact opposite. He discovered that admitting his weakness was the very thing that made him truly powerful. It's a complete 180 from how we normally think about strength. Okay, so how does this actually play out in real life? The source gives us a fantastic case study in the story of Moses, who is kind of the perfect example of someone who started out with the wrong kind of weakness and then finally found the right kind. And this is a really, really important distinction. The source argues that not all weakness is the same. One kind is completely useless, but the other, well, the other is the secret key that unlocks this whole divine power thing we're talking about. You can see the shift right here. At first, Moses is doubting God's power. He's basically saying, this won't work because they won't believe me. That's the wrong kind of weakness. It's really just unbelief. But then something shifts. He stops doubting God and starts doubting himself. He admits, I'm not a good speaker. I'm slow of speech. And that moment of humility, that confession of his own personal inadequacy, that was the game changer. And that right there is the secret sauce. The moment Moses stopped trusting his own abilities, having no confidence in the flesh, he basically opened the door for a divine power to come rushing in. It turns out that having zero confidence in yourself is the actual starting point for true strength. All right, so just when you think you've got this idea of weakness as strength figured out, the story takes a wild turn. We're going to look at the very next line from that verse in Hebrews, and it moves us from personal weakness straight onto a battlefield, and what the source calls a cosmic conflict. So, you see that phrase, armies of the aliens? Well, who on earth are they talking about? This is where the source offers a really startling interpretation that completely reframes the whole war for the land of Canaan. So according to this interpretation, the Israelites were not just fighting other human tribes for territory. No, the source argues this was a targeted spiritual war. It claims the land was occupied by these specific non-human clans, these giants, who were put there for one reason, to block a divine promise from ever happening. And look, this perspective is what the source uses to explain one of the toughest, most controversial commands in the whole text, the order to completely wipe out the inhabitants. From this viewpoint, it wasn't seen as an act against regular people, but as a necessary spiritual house cleaning to remove a satanic infestation. And the source points to this psalm as a kind of proof text. It's pretty jarring, right? You have these incredibly violent actions, struck down great kings, immediately followed by the line, "For his mercy endures forever." The logic being presented is that removing this spiritual stronghold was actually seen as a merciful act, one that was necessary to preserve a divine plan for all of humanity. Okay, that's a lot of ancient history, right? Giants, cosmic battles. So what does any of this have to do with us, right now, today? Well, the source argues that core principles are exactly the same, but the battlefield has moved. The fight isn't out there for a piece of land anymore. It's moved. It's in here. It's an internal battle against our own flawed nature. And it's also a battle against the broken, worldly systems all around us. So this gives us a totally new game plan, a 3-step strategy for today. First, the main event is the fight within yourself, refusing to give in to your own worst instincts. Second, when it comes to the world's conflicts, the strategy isn't to jump in and fight, but to separate yourself. And third, you find true strength by going outside the camp, away from all that noise and conflict to focus on a divine center. So really, the call to action here isn't to fight harder in the world's battles. It's a call to step away from the fray entirely and to find your identity and your strength in a different place, a divine center that exists completely outside of all that conflict. So, to bring it all home, what we've looked at today is a total flip of the script on what strength means. True strength isn't something we build, it's something we're given. We access it by admitting we're not enough. Following that path can save us from dangers we don't even see. And today, the main battle is inside us, and the winning strategy is surrender and separation, not conflict. And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on, something to think about in our own lives. If real, lasting strength only kicks in when our own strength runs out, what are we still desperately trying to do all by ourselves?